investors, I have to explain a lot of things. So I want you to be very crisp and straight to the point on the questions that you chose, that you'd like to answer, okay? So with that, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Murthy, and also it's such a wonderful opportunity to be here. Look forward to what magic will come out of this. My name is Mahesh. I'm the CEO and founder at Satori XR. We are an IoT Madras incubated startup. That's what I'm doing now, but prior to this I was for about 30 years in the automotive industry. And well, very similar to another story we heard before, I've been in and out, jumped in, jumped out, got kicked out, I've had 3 venture exits, some fun, some very bad, a couple of good, but lots of learning all along the way. So my latest avatar is Satori XR, and I say avatar because I mean it. In Satori XR, we use augmented reality, virtual reality, and such technologies, and digital twin to solve problems in sales and marketing, training, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much. It's such a privilege to be here.
Hi, my name is Bilwan Natarajan. I'm the founder CEO of Manage Artworks. We are a B2B enterprise SaaS application that is in the unique space called packaging artwork. So for people who don't know what packaging artwork is, this green label that you see is a packaging artwork. So anything that you see on a supermarket is all packaging artwork. So essentially our customers are all in food, FMCG and pharma. We essentially manage the content, help them design, make sure the compliance of it is correct, either it's FSSAI or FDA, make sure it goes all the way to print or to e-commerce. So what we call the artwork life cycle, we manage end-to-end for that. So as we go, we'll answer more questions about Archer.
Hi everyone, I'm Nishant Raja, co-founder and CEO of Zyma Analytics. I'm a researcher turned entrepreneur. I started my career as a scientist in some of the defense laboratories and continued my PhD in IIT Madras and the core product of Zyma at my PhD work, where we are solving fundamental problem statements of the manufacturing and process industry, helping them to measure critical process parameters up to 1800 degrees Celsius. So that's the differentiation what we bring in. So basically we can convert any metallic material or a ceramic material into a sensor and help the industries to measure multiple process parameters starting from temperature, viscosity and fluid properties using the fundamental ultrasonic sound signature principle. That's what we do. And today we are operating approximately close to 15 plus nations across the globe where our sensors are already tested and validated. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Vinay, co-founder and CEO of SkySurf. We are an edge computing company. Our solution sits on board the satellite. We primarily process images from the satellites in milliseconds. We use advanced AI and ML programming skills. We serve for dual type of customers, defense and for commercial. What we do with our solution is we reduce the cost of data. We solve for latency and we build out these AI logics on board the satellite itself. We have an office in Cupertino and we have an office in Bangalore. That's about us. Thank you.
Why don't we pass those mics out here? We share this mic, you share that mic, we'll be more efficient. All right.
So the fun part of today's panel is I'm here trying to recruit you guys to consider US as your global market opportunity. So in doing so, this is an interview, right? I wanted to check to see what makes you think, and this is a common question for all of you. So you have 30 seconds per question. So I've got 2 things bundled into one. What makes you think you're ready for the US market? And what have you done internally to make sure that you can bring that product to the US market? So why don't we start with that?
I'm going to be first.
We'll rotate.
Okay, no, I'm just joking. So the first thing is to play with the story of build in India and sell to the world. So what we built in India worked. It worked, it added value to our customers. And these were global customers which had presence here. So it was almost like an automatic and natural extension. And the original idea, anyway, was to build in India and go global. That was our approach from day one. So the thesis was, okay, if we can make it work here and use that not so interesting word, profit, if you can be profitable here, it's going to be far better in the US. So we were already on that journey now, and I validated these numbers by having several visits to the US and other such markets, and it's clear, it's not just about cost arbitrage. The other thing that's also, if you want to call it a tailwind, is that these markets are ready to adopt such technologies. So it's easier to sell, it's easier to talk about it, and our technology specifically has come off the hype cycle, and now it's going into the adoption cycle, whereas it's going to take a long time here. So we've got these tailwinds, we are already profitable, we have already got a product that works for India in the entire mess that you see. So it's a sort of no-brainer. That's how we arrived at it.
So for us, an FMCG packaging artwork process is very similar. And working in India with Indian FMCG companies, there are a lot of MNCs here. All of them have similar applications. So if an MNC is using our application in India, it's the same kind of a process in the other countries. So an Indian company is exporting out to the Middle East or neighboring countries. So we had that experience already with these companies on what everyone does outside the country. When it comes to pharma though, India exports about 40% of all generics around the world is from India. So working with Indian pharma companies, we already knew what the FDA required in terms of compliance. So all the requirements for us in terms of our product were already FDA compliant by the time we finished working with our Indian company. So at that point we realized, so it makes sense to now move on to another market where enforcement is high. I think somebody else told the same thing. While all the rules are here from a packaging side in India, the enforcement from an FSSAI point of view is still very, I would say, low. But the same thing in the US, if you have a problem, FDA comes after you with a huge stick and you have to have a product recall. So the need and the ability to sell into a US company is much higher as opposed to somebody else. So that's really the
For Zyma, the first R&D project from US was with EPI, the Electric Power Research Institute, where we have developed a sensor for some of the nuclear reactors. So more such nuclear reactors are coming up. So that is the clear moat we have on the nuclear sector. And today, if you see our Zyma's product are already validated with the petrochemical industry. In India, we are already with IOCL, BPCL, Reliance, and we will be soon installing our sensors in the ADNOC too. And I think right now with pumps, every drill is also in picture. So the refinery production is going to be significantly higher over there, and we have a clear moat with respect to the technological IP what we have. Because most of our close to 4 IPs are already granted in US itself on our products. Coming back to the apart from the petrochemical side, there is also a clear ESG compliance. See, some of the critical rare earth materials that have been used to measure beyond 1500 degrees Celsius are platinum rhodium material, which is the use of rare earth materials, where we can do the same measurement using a ceramic material. So there is a clear ESG advantage is also over there, and Western countries are significantly increased onto the ESG norms. For example, SKF in Sweden is already the roadmap for them to implement some of the ceramic sensors what we procure and manufacture it exclusively for them in some of their processes. And coming back to the semiconductor industry, we are working already with Upgrade Materials and RAM Research, two of the largest semiconductor fab manufacturers, where the manufacturing is happening in the US. And they want our sensors to be already integrated into it. Stocks are going on. I think this will be the right platform for us to scalability in that aspect.
Vinay, I think you should hold that mic and not leave it.
For us, by day zero, it was very obvious for us that we should set up the base in US. And 5 years ago when we started it, we didn't have a great platform like Falcon X for us to explore a space tech or dual technology sector. And if we have to add value to velocity, it's just not about outthinking, it's about outdoing. And how far can you get to the distribution engine? And the fact is you have to be there where the customers are, where the business potential is, where the market is. So keeping those in mind, we started having an office, we set up a Delaware COP, We also have a Cupertino office not very far from Architects. We have been having a couple of flights. We've done a couple of flights with SpaceX. We've done a couple of flights with US satellite partners and European satellite partners. Our objective is to be in as many satellites as possible globally, while India market also please catch up or grow up, and not to leave out on the market opportunities. So we are right there at the position of strength, not the position of catch up, and that's what drove us there.
As an extension, we'll start with you, Vinay. Where do you see yourself in the context of founder-led sales? Obviously, you've done the sales part of it here successfully. When you enter the US market, and I know you already have some presence out there, have you been the founder-led sales personality, or do you find somebody who's going to sell it for you and set the culture for your company?
It's a great question for us internally as well.
I just went off script.
Yeah, it's good. Happy about that. It's a mix of both for us. Firstly, it's a reality that how much ever passionate you are about the product, how much ever you've done the walks of the corridor to sell, some of the products that you're selling, especially deep tech, there's a certain level of credibility, certain level of dual-use technology. You do require a local person to go back as an American citizen to go back and talk to the customers. That's something that we realized as well. Apart from that, we can complement the salesperson or enable them, because there's a certain amount of culture, a certain amount of other factors. It is not like a typical SaaS where you could do it remotely, or you could do it with the inside sales, SDR, ADR process. And you will have to have a high touch engagement at least for the next couple of years to get to a certain level of escape velocity and then take it from there. That's how we've got. I don't think we have really got it the way it is, but those are the lessons that we have, and that's a journey that we are doing right now.
Excellent. I want you to talk about the founder-led sales here, because I'll tell you where I'm going with this afterwards when I hear all your response.
I think for the thesis of Zyma is I lead all the founder-led sales for the initial discussion. Because see, the technological validation has to come from the end user. Once the product is technologically validated by the end user, by the discussion next go to the commercial discussion part, right? So the technologically it is validated, then it is a commercial discussion. So then what Zyma does is Zyma identifies what type of thesis we need to use for the sales guy, because their perspective will be on a weighted basis one, or a spin theory, or a challenger theory. So we have right sales team who can handle the right questions for them. So we position to them, and they take care from the respective team. Right? So technologically, I think the founder sales is a decision maker, and especially I think the hotline always remains with the founder only, because sales negotiation, commercial negotiation will happen, walkouts will happen, but again the hotline has to be with the founder. It needs to be very patiently following up. Unfortunately, founders are busy with the scale up of it. So the follow, I think the sales team will be starting taking the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think founder-led sales is the way to start. There's no two ways about it. But if you need to scale up though, you need to be able to transfer all the passion, the stories, everything that you have gone through to somebody else, so that they can then do what you can do. If you can kind of clone yourself and create another sales guy, that would be ideal. That's the hardest part to do. How do you get sales? We've gone through many salespeople. Hiring the most passionate salesperson is one of the hardest things to do, especially in a remote location. You know, in India it's a little bit more easier, but when you hire in the US, it not only you spend a tremendous amount of time, you have to give that person enough time to warm up to the whole thing, your product, the way you sell and everything. And by the time you know, it's already 6 months, 8 months, and sales cycle in a B2B enterprise is also long. So by the time you realize you hired a dud, you already paid him for a year. So it's a very challenging thing. So initially, being there with this new person, making sure they understand how you pitch, what you think is essential, whether it's a new market or not, that's absolutely required.
I completely agree with you, and I just wanted to spend a minute afterwards, but let's give Mahesh a chance as well.
So I absolutely resonate with what he said. one of my early co-founders who's no longer with me said, hey, how do I clone you? What he said. And I didn't understand completely. But then at the end of the day, what it comes down to is being able to bring your background, your years of experience, etc., to be able to solution the problem, especially in the early days. We're not sure what we're building yet, but we know that it works, and so you need to make sure that your prospects can see that. So therefore, founder-led sales is extremely important. The other thing is, I've also done the same thing. Luckily, I figured it out in 9 months as opposed to 1 year. So we hired a person and very similar sort of approach to how we would go about doing this, but it didn't work. So again, it falls back on founder-led sales. The same, another thing is I realized that in the US and international markets it's extremely expensive, but there are various other options of going about doing, building a sales organization. For instance, it could be partnerships. That's one thing we're exploring. The other thing is I am personally leading a lot of the initial POCs because that's very important. And also, at the end of the day, convincing a customer, you also have to have that culture fit. Some of the things that we talked about. So yes, I am blessed and very thankfully I'm able to go and do this when I go to the US. And so it's very important that for the next person who's going to be doing this has to be a local. It's what I think. Founder-led sales will only take you so far. Ultimately, how do you scale beyond that? It has to be with a local presence. So founder-led sales up to a point and then local.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think. I do agree that founder-led sales is very important, especially if you're entering the market for the first time with your product. Remember one thing, I mean, you may not be the only company that does the same thing, similar thing. But what you bring to the table as a founder-led sales is the kind of things that will allow you to convince your customer that you're doing it better than everybody else. Because everybody gets multiple calls about the same topic, same types of products and services. So it's important to understand that the founder-led sales is a very, very important part of at least what we believe in. We think that somebody should shadow you, understand what it is, and that's how the sales culture is going to be set and allow you to scale locally. So I do believe eventually you should have some sort of a local talent, but we do believe that the founder-led sales is very, very critical. Even in the context of technologies that are not available in the US or other markets as well. Founder-led sales is a very important driver. So I'm going to ask you got the mic here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and ask you. This is, I think, the last round before we go into Q&A. But I just wanted to stir the pot a little bit. So, I know Forge works on a proper sandbox and this thing, but I just took the advantage of holding the mic to kind of deviate a little. A few things that I wanted to ask you, Mahesh, in the context of this global expansion. How do you see the pricing differential? You price it with a certain market in one geography. How do you take it and displace it and then price it accordingly in the market, let's say the global market, US, for that? What's your thought process? How do you think about pricing this product?
First of all, with respect to India vis-a-vis international markets, it's night and day. To begin with, here it's in the US market, it's about value. So the price is important, yes. The cost is not a factor really, but it's how much value you can deliver. And the other thing is being able to prove ultimately an ROI or a value that you clearly deliver. So it's very important to be able to say, because you're spending all of this, this is what you're getting. From a simple ROI perspective. And the other thing is how much value. So initially when I went to the US and international markets, I did a ground-up based costing exercise. I did the conventional cost it at this per hour and then totaled up everything and added a profit margin and I said, okay, this is going to be my bottom. I went to a couple of trade fairs and I was blown away by the kind of numbers that other people said. So I just literally shut up because the numbers I went with were like, I was like, okay, I'm going to charge, I'm going to ask for about $120 per hour. So I went there and I asked somebody who was potentially a competitor, I said, how much do you charge? $300 an hour. Why? Because you could establish that value. So that's the most important part of how we price for the US. What is the value you establish? And then therefore all of the rest flows from that. The next thing is ROI. So it depends on how large the problem is that you're solving and also how quick you can deliver. That's where I believe that products can win, because you can go there and say, hey, you can start tomorrow, or you can start day after, or you swipe your credit card now, even if it's a big thing, but then you are onboarded and then continue. So that's very quick adoption. The second thing is how big of a problem do they have? And that by itself is an inherent advantage for us, because the numbers are already so large. And we're already talking about we're going to get a couple of US dollar contracts, and everybody is so happy about what's going to happen. So we already have an arbitrage. So therefore, the numbers already are so big in the US, and then if you take Indian context, it's even big. So these are the things that I've learned: large, very large projects, value, and as well as establishing ROI rather than pricing.
Wonderful. So Wilbur, does that apply for you?
Kind of, but what we did was, so primarily we had a base value based on competition, but you don't know what they have sold. In enterprise sales, there is no published price. It's how much the customer can afford. So somewhere we found out what the competition was charging. So we kept that as a base, and our initial goal was we need logos in the US. So eventually, when you want to go to a customer and the first question is, who else is using it? They don't care whether they bought it for $1 or they bought it for $100,000. At the end of the day, I have a logo in the US where who's happy, who I can have as a reference. So that was so we always pitched a little lower than that base number. And then we tried a little below, a little above, and kind of saw the range at which people started to push back. And so, okay, this is where people feel comfortable in terms of what the product's value is for them. And then we kind of narrowed down and saying, this is the band in which, and it's still a band, it's not a single number, it's usually a band in which we will operate and negotiate up and down depending on how it goes. So that's how we did it.
I'll give you an example. I make wine. And you can buy a bottle of wine for a few $1,000s, and you can buy a bottle of wine for $6. But what goes into the cost of a $6 is a bottle, the label, the cork, the sleeve, and then you have to sell. All $6. You think there's any margins left in that? So the point I'm trying to make is it's all about how you bring value out for the customers and convince them that it has that value, that you need to pay the price. So I'm just playing that, the important part of what I'm trying to ask each of you is, how do you price it in that market, but yet not lose money, right? Okay. What about Nishant, you?
So Zyma has a pricing model already established. So depending on things, ours is more on a hardware product. So there are lots of certification requirements, and especially the time required for installation. And we have a market standards for the other processes, because we deliver our products for the process industries who are already having large companies like ABB, Schneider, and immersion into the field. So we know the pricing of theirs, and we have value-based pricing also added to it. Since we are providing more technology advancement and robustness of the product, and the flexibility comes from the value-based pricing is, so once you have a target life of the asset, and we are exceeding that asset, so we do a value-based pricing, whatever production increase, I'll take a small percentage out. So that has helped us in one particular way, not in the US, but somewhere else. So I think that is the pricing model which we have in our products, along with the existing standard market prices.
Wonderful. So, not the apples and apples here, but oranges. So walk me through that.
Yeah. Before I do that, just a quick point on the last one. I do believe in founder-led sales, and I agree with that. But the point is, in some of our largest market, of course, the US defense, and unless he's an American citizen, he's not allowed into the room or he can't access it. That's why we have to do that. So going back to the cost perspective of price, getting to the price model, What we've done is we've done a set of benchmarking with some of the players. Then we built a pricing calculator. Then what we did is we did a simulation of how does the data happen, if not for us, what would you do traditionally? How much would be the cost takeout or cost savings? And what would happen the ground station cost, what would happen the cloud cost, etc. And vis-a-vis you go back and say, this is what's the value that you get from us. And hence, this is how it's kind of a walk them through the solution kind of thing and make them understand the features where it matters for them, and then surface it at the end of it saying this is a cost bomb or this is a solution, and hence this is how what it takes to engage with us. And that kind of a discovery has worked for us. Sometimes the customer has patience to walk through it because it takes 1 or 2 calls because it's slightly deep tech and they have to pay a lot of attention when we talk about it. Sometimes we are also getting much more crafty to say how do we sell well on this motion. So it's a bit of an experiment with our approach A versus approach B versus approach C, because we also look back to say the persona of it, say we see a chief of product, chief of missions, chief of technology, or we see a business guy. Traditionally we have seen that a business guy does not have a bunch of patience. He wants things in a very crisp way, under 10 seconds, tell me what it costs, how quick, how soon. And for that guy, we have a different sales motion. For the other guys, we have different sales motion. So this is what we oscillate with. Okay.
Wonderful. I think I'm going to take the opportunity to, thank Vish, Pasna, the entire set of partners that have been participating